Well, the world's media is swallowing Hamas propaganda that Israel is to blame for the war not ending and for the Palestinian suffering. Yet the reality is that Israel can't withdraw from Gaza until the hostages are free. And far from deliberately starving Palestinians, Israel is doing everything it can to deliver aid to Gaza. Human rights lawyer and CEO of the International Legal Forum, Arsen Ostrovsky, went to Kerem Shalom on the Gaza border last week to see for himself whether aid was getting through.
There's roughly 600 crates worth of food that is waiting for the United Nations and the international community to be collected and to be distributed to Gaza. You can also see here when the goods were actually delivered. The date here, it says 26th of June. 26th of June. That means it has been sitting here waiting idly by for over a month to be delivered and distributed to the people of Gaza.
And Arsen is now in Australia and joins me live in studio. Arsen, great to finally meet you in person after remote interviews. So tell us about what you saw, the hundreds of crates of aid, food just sitting there.
Look, it's truly jarring scenes. You know, there's no denying that what's happening in Gaza, it is a real catastrophe. There is real palpable suffering there. But seeing hundreds upon hundreds of trucks worth of food, including baby formula, flour, water, perishables, waiting for the United Nations and the international community to collect it and to distribute it to Gaza is inexcusable. They are letting it rot. At the same time, they are blaming Israel with famine, with starvation in Gaza, when it is they are the ones that are refusing to collect that. They would.
Why are they refusing to collect it? What do they say?
Look, they say all sorts of things, from logistical issues to security issues, but the fact of the matter is the UN operates in every single conflict and war zone around the world, and that doesn't stop them delivering aid, whether it's Sudan or elsewhere around the world. But here, I think they would rather use Israel as a forever scapegoat rather than actually help the people of Gaza, because it's easier to do that, because not doing that would mean that they would have to concede that it is their support for the current status quo that it existed actually enables and supports Hamas, allowing them to profit from this, and allowing them to divert the aid, to steal the aid, to weaponize it. It would mean conceding their own policy failure over the years. So they would rather do that. They would rather undercut what Israel is doing, trying to get aid into Gaza, trying to undercut what the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is doing, getting millions of meals directly to the people of Gaza instead of to the hands of Hamas.
And Israel, by the way, is also doing aerial drops as well, and I think encouraging the United States to start aerial drops of food as well. Now, we know about the staged photograph by the Time magazine. We might show those pictures on the screen. That came out this week, the famous Time cover, which showed starving Palestinian children, that it was actually staged by a photographer. We also know about the cropped photograph on the front page of the New York Times. It was cropped so it excluded the more well-nourished sibling. But I want to ask you, you know, despite the fact that we are seeing a lot of propaganda, what is your assessment on the levels of hunger and starvation among the Palestinians?
Look, there is certainly some very difficult images coming out, and you know we can't dispute that. People are struggling there. We need to get more food in, more aid in. No one's disputing that. The fact of the matter is Israel's doing everything possible in order to facilitate that. Israel has allowed over 1,000 trucks of aid to come in, aid that has been checked, and that is waiting for the UN and other international agencies to come and distribute it, but they're refusing to do that. So there is hunger, but there is not widespread starvation as has been made out to be. There is sufficient food, but there should be more food that are coming in, but it is the international community that is refusing to do that. And when we see those images, the staged ones like we saw, you mentioned with the Time cover, that is simply inexcusable. The Hamas terrorist organization is feeding lies to the media, and media is just reporting them as fact. Now, that is not journalism, that is complicity.
You've been in Australia this week, so you would have seen the Albanese government clearly moving to join with France, Canada and the UK in recognising a Palestinian state at the United Nations General Assembly in September. This is despite the fact that there's been no agreement about who would govern Gaza. before even the release of the hostages, which were previous conditions the Albanese government had on recognition. What's your view on this?
Look, I think, to be honest, speaking about recognising a Palestinian state now as a reward to Hamas, which is literally forcing hostages to dig their own graves, is grotesque. Now is not the right time to be discussing this. Now, the Prime Minister, I think, made an important point when he said that the Australian government will not make empty gestures. He referenced the fact that now might not be the right time, and he's right in that regard. But there is extraordinary pressure being placed on him.
He's going to do it. He's definitely going to do it.
Look, it seems a matter of matter of when, not if. But I think doing so now would literally be a reward to the terrorists that carried out their attacks on October 7th. It would be in defiance of decades of bipartisan policy on Israel. Would also, I think, not play well in terms of Australia's relationships with the United States. We saw how US reacted when Canada did the same. But ultimately, it would be a performative gesture that would do nothing to bring peace, but only push us further back. Yeah,
well, and Albanese said today that he wouldn't even consult with the United States president, who he can't even get a call with anyway, before making this move. We can have a look at that comment where Albanese said that.
Will you talk to Donald Trump before you make a decision about Palestinian recognition?
We're a sovereign government, and Australia makes decisions on behalf of the Australian government.
Yeah, I mean, Australia is not standing anywhere side by side with the United States anymore. Australia is not an ally, I would say, of Israel under this current government. It's a pro-Palestinian. He had a conversation with Mahmoud Abbas the other night. He's preparing to meet him at the UN. It's quite bizarre.
I think it's actually good that he spoke to Mahmoud Abbas, and I hope when he did speak to him, he actually told him that if you want statehood, you have to show that you are committed to peace. You have to show that you will stop the pay-to-slay salaries to terrorists. You have to show that you're willing to accept Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. And I would hope immediately after that, or even before that, ideally, that he does also speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu and hears exactly what is happening on the ground in Israel and why some of these statements that are being heard from Australia are quite disappointing.
Yeah, and we're still waiting to see precisely what Israel's next steps are in Gaza. A lot of speculation and discussion, but no firm evidence there. Arsen Ostrovsky, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.